Keir Starmer is under fire yet again, and this time the criticism comes in scorching waves from Kelvin Mackenzie. The outspoken commentator unleashed a barrage of attacks on Starmer during a live TV interview, slamming his approach to the ongoing migration crisis. With biting remarks and a scathing critique, Mackenzie accused Starmer of offering nothing but excuses and warned that the Labour leader's refusal to commit to a migration cap is a surefire path to economic disaster and chaos. Mackenzie's claim that under Starmer's leadership, British taxpayers will be the ones footing the bill for Labour's migration failures through another colossal tax rise. As the migration debate intensifies, Rishi Sunak has seized the opportunity to paint Starmer as weak and indecisive, positioning himself as the only leader capable of solving Britain's mounting border crisis.
There, almost 1 million people, net migration. I mean, just in case you don't know what that means, because we all bandy these terms around, don't we? That basically means that that is the size of the population increase. So when you take away the people that have left and the people that have come in, that is your net figure. So 906,000 people, not shy of 1 million people. Wow. What do you think to that?
I think it's shocking. I think it's a shocking legacy of the Conservative government and the multiple prime ministers that they've had over the years. It's the reason why they got thrown out with that massive majority. And I also, you didn't cover it, but the other area that I actually agree with this, so this will get me a tremendous bucket load from both sides of the argument, is that I vaguely agree with Starmer over the way that he has positioned Brexit as being a responsible area for this, because the truth about the matter is the reason those kids, those boats are coming across is because they can do, because we can't send them back. Whereas had we remained in the EU, we could have done. Now, of course, there are arguments. Yes, they're coming in by lorries, they're coming in by planes, they're coming in lots of ways. But one of the ways that they are consistently coming in is across the channel. We can't send them back. So there's a number of things Starmer said which I agree with. The bit that I don't agree with is the idea that he's going to solve any of this, right? He changes his tune every 2 minutes. 1 minute he's saying, actually, we're going to need lots of help upon this to turn it round. We can't do it on our own. And now he's saying, yes, we will do this. I admire his ambition. And when I look at what he's done over the last 5 months, I can absolutely assure every one of your viewers right now that nothing will be achieved and all you'll get is another huge tax rise.
The fallout from Mackenzie's fiery remarks has been immediate and far-reaching. On live TV, he didn't mince his words, branding Starmer's migration policies as nothing more than a political smokescreen. Let's face it, Mackenzie said. Keir Starmer can talk about fairness and data all day long, but where's the action? Where's the leadership? Instead of real solutions, what do we get? Excuses, platitudes, and a guarantee that taxpayers will pick up the tab for Labour's incompetence. His comments come in the wake of new migration figures that have left the country reeling. According to the Office for National Statistics, net migration hit a record-breaking 906,000 in the year to June 2023, an eye-watering number that has intensified calls for urgent reform. Starmer's refusal to set a migration cap has further fueled criticism, with many accusing the Labour leader of dodging the tough decisions needed to address the crisis. Rishi Sunak hasn't wasted a moment in using this controversy to hammer home his government's hardline stance on illegal migration. Speaking at a Downing Street press conference, the Prime Minister highlighted his administration's efforts to take back control of Britain's borders. A centrepiece of Sunak's plan is a new deal with Iraq, designed to dismantle human smuggling operations at their source. While critics question how effective the agreement will be in the long term, Sunak has framed it as proof of his government's resolve. Under this government, we are acting decisively to protect our borders, Sunak declared. Compare that to Labour. Keir Starmer won't even commit to a migration cap. How can the British public trust someone who refuses to take a stand on one of the biggest issues facing our country? Mackenzie echoed this sentiment, warning that Starmer's indecision is creating a dangerous vacuum in leadership. What happens when you have no plan and no backbone? He asked. The answer is chaos. More migrants, more taxpayer money wasted, and no end in sight. That's Starmer's Britain. Meanwhile, Starmer has pushed back against the criticism, arguing that arbitrary migration caps are a distraction from the real work of reforming the immigration system. In a series of interviews, the Labour leader accused the Conservatives of engineering the current crisis through years of failed policies. He pointed to what he called the Tories' open borders experiment, which he claims was disguised as Global Britain, as a key driver of the unprecedented migration levels. "This isn't about plucking a number out of thin air," Starmer said. "It's about building a system that's fair, humane and effective, one that works for everyone. The Conservatives have had over a decade to fix this, and all they've done is make it worse." But critics, including Mackenzie, argue that Starmer's refusal to set concrete goals is a glaring weakness. "Leadership is about making tough decisions," Mackenzie said. "Starmer doesn't want to do that. Instead, he's playing politics while the crisis deepens." Adding fuel to the fire, the migration crisis is hitting taxpayers in their wallets. Recent figures show that the Home Office spent a staggering £5.38 billion on asylum-related expenses over the past year, a 36% increase from the previous year. These costs include the accommodation of 106,000 asylum claimants, with over 35,000 housed in hotels due to a lack of suitable facilities. Despite Labour's promises to end the use of hotels, the number of such facilities has actually risen since July, as the backlog of asylum cases, left by the Conservatives, continues to grow. Mackenzie used these figures to hammer Labour's fiscal policies, warning that Starmer's approach will ultimately result in sky-high taxes for ordinary citizens. "Let me spell it out for you," Mackenzie said. "Labour isn't going to solve this crisis. They're just going to make the rest of us pay for it. More taxes, more debt, and no end to the chaos." Meanwhile, on social media, the clip of Mackenzie's scathing critique has gone viral. Hashtags like Labour chaos and migration crisis have dominated the conversation, with supporters praising Mackenzie for saying what everyone's thinking and detractors accusing him of fear-mongering. The polarised response underscores how deeply migration has divided the nation. For Starmer, the stakes are enormous. As he attempts to position Labour as the party of competence and compassion, he faces a growing perception that his policies lack the clarity and decisiveness voters demand. Meanwhile, Sunak is doubling down on his government's tough-on-migration agenda, framing himself as the leader who will deliver results where Labour falters. Adding to the drama, new reports suggest tensions are growing within Labour over Starmer's handling of the issue. Some insiders worry that his refusal to set a migration cap leaves the party vulnerable to attacks from the right, while others argue that such a move would alienate Labour's progressive base. With an election on the horizon, the pressure on Starmer to bridge this divide is mounting. As the controversy continues to escalate, both leaders find themselves at a critical crossroads. For Sunak, the challenge lies in proving that his government's migration policies can produce tangible results. For Starmer, the task is even greater. He must convince a sceptical public that his vision for immigration reform can deliver both fairness and control, a balancing act that few believe he can pull off. The migration crisis has become the defining issue of this political moment, and the battle lines are clear. On one side, Sunak is staking his leadership on a hardline approach that emphasises border security and swift action. On the other, Starmer is championing a more measured systemic overhaul that critics say lacks urgency. The question is, which vision will resonate with voters? With Kelvin Mackenzie's fiery remarks dominating the headlines, the stakes have never been higher. Will Starmer rise to the challenge and prove his critics wrong, or will his perceived weaknesses allow Sunak to consolidate his position? One thing is certain, the public is watching, and the fallout from this explosive debate is far from over.